What if I told you that right now, in this very moment, you are one decision away from completely changing your life? One step, one risk, one bold move. Yet most people will hesitate and let their dreams slip away. Will you be one of them? Or will you rise up and take what's yours? Time is running out. What will you do? There are moments in life when everything seems to be standing still. You pray, you wait, you push forward, yet nothing moves. The breakthrough you expected months ago still hasn't arrived. The opportunity you desperately needed slipped right through your fingers. The dream you've been chasing for years feels farther away than ever. And in that silence, in that frustrating stillness, a dangerous thought creeps in: has God forgotten about me? But what if I told you that this very moment, the waiting, the delay, the detour, is not punishment but preparation? What if the silence is not rejection but a divine setup for something far greater than you imagined? What if the very thing you see as an obstacle is actually part of God's perfect plan to position you for a blessing so immense that if you received it too soon, it would crush you? Think about an archer pulling back his bow. The further back he pulls, the greater the force when the arrow is finally released. If the arrow were released too soon, it would fall short of its target. The delay, the tension, the pullback, it's not a setback, it's a setup for a greater launch. And right now in your life, God is pulling you back, not to leave you behind, but to propel you forward with more speed, more power, and more purpose than you ever expected. Yet, here's where so many people get stuck. They mistake God's timing for God's denial. They start doubting, they start questioning, some even start turning away. They lose faith because they don't see immediate results. They assume that if the door isn't opening now, it never will. They compare their journey to others, watching as people around them seem to be thriving while they remain in the waiting room of life. But let me ask you something. If you walked into a kitchen and pulled a cake out of the oven before it was fully baked, what would happen? It would collapse. It wouldn't taste right. It would be ruined not because it wasn't meant to be a cake, but because it wasn't given enough time to rise. Some of you are trying to rush your process. You're trying to force something to happen before it's ready, before you're ready. You're looking at the timeline of others and wondering why your moment hasn't come yet. But what you don't realize is that God is not preparing the blessing for you. He is preparing you for the blessing. And if you receive something before you have the character, the strength, and the wisdom to sustain it, that very blessing could become a burden. Look at the stories of those who reach success too quickly. Lottery winners who received millions overnight, only to lose it all within a few years because they weren't prepared to handle the responsibility that came with it. Talented individuals who gained fame but crumbled under the pressure because their foundation wasn't strong enough. Relationships that started too soon, careers that took off before the person was ready. All examples of what happens when something arrives at the wrong time. God's timing is not just about delay, it's about development. Every challenge, every closed door, every season of waiting is shaping you into the person who can not only receive the blessing but hold on to it, nurture it, and use it for something greater than yourself. You may feel forgotten, but you are not. You may feel overlooked, but you are not. You may feel like nothing is happening, but in the unseen, in the background, God is orchestrating something beyond your comprehension. So instead of asking, why is this taking so long? Start asking, what is this time teaching me? Because the waiting season is never wasted. Look at those who trusted the process. Joseph, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, imprisoned unfairly, spent years in what seemed like endless struggle. Yet, in the perfect time, he was elevated to a position where he not only saved himself, but an entire nation. Imagine if he had given up in the waiting. Imagine if he had assumed that his suffering meant God had abandoned him. You may not see it now, but what you're going through has a purpose. The disappointments, the heartbreak, the delay, it's all working together for something greater. And that means you have a choice. You can let impatience rob you of what's meant for you. You can give up, settle, walk away. Or you can trust that when God moves, He moves suddenly, powerfully, and perfectly. So hold on. Keep the faith. Don't just wait passively. Prepare. Strengthen your mind. Deepen your faith. Keep pushing forward even when it feels like nothing is changing. Because when the breakthrough comes, it won't come gradually. It will come in an instant, and when it does, you will look back and understand that every delay was divine. Your moment is coming. Your blessing is on its way. And when it arrives, you will realize God's timing was perfect all along. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, staring down at the vast space beneath you. Your heart pounds, your legs tremble, and a voice in your head screams, what if I fall? But what if, instead of falling, you were meant to fly? Fear is the invisible chain that holds so many people back from stepping into their destiny. It whispers lies in the silence, convincing you that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. It keeps you stuck in the same routines, the same toxic relationships, the same unfulfilling job, the same cycle of what-ifs that paralyze you from taking action. And the greatest tragedy, most people never realize that the only thing standing between them and the life they were meant to live is the fear they refuse to let go of. There was once a man who had a deep desire to start his own business. He had the skills, the knowledge, and the passion, But every time he thought about taking that first step, fear gripped him. What if I fail? What if I lose all my money? What if people laugh at me? Years passed. His dream remained just that, a dream. Then one day he received a call. A former colleague, someone with less experience and fewer resources, had taken the leap and built a wildly successful business. The man sat in silence, realizing that the only difference between them wasn't talent, intelligence, or luck. It was courage. One had acted despite fear. The other had allowed fear to hold him hostage. How many of us are living in the shadows of fear? How many of us are waiting for the perfect time, only to watch opportunities slip away? Fear makes you overthink, overanalyze, and hesitate until the moment is gone. It convinces you that playing it safe is better than risking failure. But let me tell you something, every person who has ever achieved greatness has walked through fear. They felt it, but they didn't bow to it. They understood that fear is a liar, a thief that steals time, dreams, and purpose. Think about a baby learning to walk. Does the baby stop after the first fall? No, they get up again and again until they master it. But somewhere along the way, life teaches us to fear failure. We become so afraid of falling that we refuse to take a single step. Fear tells you that stepping into the unknown is dangerous. Faith tells you that stepping into the unknown is where miracles happen. Fear says, you can't. Faith says, with God, all things are possible. A fear focuses on the worst that could happen. Faith focuses on the best that could happen. And here's the truth, whatever you feed will grow. If you feed fear, it will consume you. But if you feed faith, it will propel you forward. Look at the people who changed the world. The inventors, the leaders, the visionaries. Do you think they had no fear? Of course they did. But they refused to let fear dictate their choices. They stepped out, even when the odds were against them. They trusted that something greater was guiding their steps. And the same applies to you. Maybe you've been waiting for a sign, for a guarantee that everything will work out before you move forward. But faith doesn't work like that. Faith requires you to step out before you see the full picture. Faith says, go, even when you're unsure of what's ahead. Faith is believing that God is working, even when you don't see the evidence yet. Think about the story of Peter walking on water. The moment he kept his eyes on Jesus, he did the impossible. But the second he focused on the wind and waves, on fear, he began to sink. And that's exactly what happens in life. The moment you focus on the obstacles instead of the promise, you begin to drown in doubt. So the question is, which voice are you listening to? The voice of fear that keeps you trapped in mediocrity, or the voice of faith that calls you higher? It's time to stop allowing fear to control your destiny. It's time to take action in faith, even when it doesn't make sense. Make the decision today to stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I succeed beyond my wildest dreams? Fear has stolen enough from you. Don't let it take another day. Step out, move forward. Trust that when you take that leap, you won't fall, you'll fly. There are moments in life when the weight of struggle feels unbearable. Moments when you question if you have the strength to keep going. When doors slam shut, when disappointments pile up, when the pain of trying and failing over and over again makes you wonder, why is this happening to me? But what if the very thing you see as an obstacle is actually the training ground for your greatest breakthrough? What if instead of breaking you, your struggles are building you? A young athlete once dreamed of becoming a world champion. Every morning before the sun rose, he was out on the track, pushing his body to its limits. But no matter how hard he trained, he kept losing races. Frustrated and exhausted, he considered quitting. Then one day, his coach took him to a steep hill and said, run up this. The athlete groaned. He had been avoiding the hill, convinced it would only drain him further. But the coach insisted. Day after day, he ran that hill. It was brutal. His legs burned, his chest ached, and at times he wanted to collapse. But something incredible happened. When race day arrived, he found himself stronger, faster, and more resilient than ever before. And as he crossed the finish line ahead of the competition, he realized something powerful. The struggle was never meant to stop him. It was meant to prepare him. Life operates the same way. Every struggle, every hardship, every challenge that makes you want to quit is not a roadblock. It's a hill designed to make you stronger. Yet so many people misinterpret their struggles. They see failure as final. They see rejection as a sign to give up. They see delays as denials. And in doing so, they miss the very process that was shaping them for something greater. Think about the caterpillar. When it enters the cocoon, it undergoes intense transformation. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But inside, everything is changing. Its body is breaking down, reforming, growing into something entirely new. And when it finally emerges, it doesn't just crawl, it soars. Now imagine if halfway through the process, the caterpillar decided it was too painful, too difficult, and gave up. It would never become the butterfly it was destined to be. How many people give up in their cocoon season? How many quit just before the transformation is complete? You may be in that season right now. You may feel like everything is falling apart, like nothing is working in your favor. But what if I told you that this season is not the end of your story, that the very thing you see as a struggle is actually a setup for something greater? Look at history. Every great leader, every innovator, every person who has left a mark on the world has endured hardship. They have faced rejection, failure, loss, and setbacks. But instead of giving up, they used their struggles as fuel. They understood that fire doesn't just destroy, it refines. Pressure doesn't just crush, it creates diamonds. And the same is true for you. Maybe you've been overlooked. Maybe you've been told you're not good enough. Maybe life has knocked you down so many times that you've started believing you'll never rise again. But hear me when I say this, your struggles are not there to defeat you. They are there to develop you. Think about the story of a young woman who applied for a dream job 7 times and was rejected every single time. She cried, she doubted herself, and she almost gave up. But on the 8th attempt, she got the job. And years later, when she became a leader in her industry, she realized something. Those rejections had prepared her. They had built her resilience. They had sharpened her skills. Had she been hired the first time, she wouldn't have been ready for the responsibility that came with it. Sometimes what feels like a setback is actually a setup. Sometimes the delay is not a denial, it's a divine strategy. So the question is, how will you respond to your struggles? Will you let them break you, or will you let them build you? You have a choice. You can sit in self-pity, asking, why me? Or you can rise with determination, declaring, try me. You can let the pain make you bitter, or you can let it make you better. And when you look back, you will see that every challenge was not a punishment, but preparation. Every tear was watering the seed of your destiny. Every struggle was shaping you into the person you were meant to be. So don't quit. Don't back down. Don't let the hardship convince you that you are not worthy of greatness. Because one day you will look in the mirror and realize that the very things that tried to break you are the things that made you unbreakable. Keep going. The struggle is shaping you for something greater. And when your moment comes, you will rise, not as the person who started the journey, but as the person who was transformed by it. There is a voice inside your head that has been controlling your life for far too long. A voice that tells you, you're not smart enough. You're not talented enough. You're not worthy of success. And every time you get close to stepping into something greater, that voice whispers, who do you think you are? That voice is not truth. That voice is not reality. That voice is a lie, one that has been holding you back from the life you were meant to live. Imagine a baby elephant tied to a small wooden stake in the ground. As a calf, it tries to break free, but the rope is too strong. Time after time, it pulls, it struggles. It fights until one day it stops trying. It accepts that the rope is stronger than it is. Years pass. That tiny calf grows into a massive elephant, powerful enough to uproot trees, yet it never tries to break free. Why? Because in its mind, the rope still holds power over it. And this is exactly how limiting beliefs work. At some point in your life, someone told you that you weren't good enough, and you believed them. Maybe it was a teacher who said you weren't smart. Maybe it was a parent who constantly criticized you. Maybe it was a failure that made you think you were incapable. And from that moment on, you carried that belief like a chain around your mind. But what if I told you that the only thing keeping you bound is the belief that you are bound? Think about the people who have changed the world. Leaders, innovators, creators. They weren't born with superpowers. They weren't handed success on a silver platter. The only difference between them and the person who never moves forward is that they refuse to accept limitations. They refuse to believe the lie that they were incapable. Yet so many people go through life letting their limiting beliefs dictate their future. They settle for less, not because they aren't capable of more, but because they don't believe they are. They stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, and lives that don't fulfill them, all because they have convinced themselves that they cannot do better. And here's the truth, the only limits that exist are the ones you choose to accept. There was once a woman who dreamed of becoming an artist, but she told herself, I'm not creative enough. She watched others succeed, convinced that they had something special that she didn't. One day, a friend challenged her to paint just for fun. Reluctantly, she picked up a brush. The first painting was terrible. The second was slightly better. Months later, she sold her first piece. Years later, she had her own gallery. And when people asked how she became successful, she didn't say, I was born talented. She said, I stopped believing I couldn't. How many opportunities have you missed because you believed you weren't ready? How many dreams have you let die because you told yourself you weren't capable? Your beliefs shape your reality. If you believe you are limited, you will live a limited life. If you believe you are destined for greatness, you will find a way to rise. So what belief is holding you back? What lie have you accepted as truth? Is it the belief that you're too old, too young, not educated enough, not connected enough? Challenge it. Question it. Because the moment you stop accepting those lies, they lose their power over you. People think the hardest part of success is talent or luck. It's not. The hardest part is breaking free from the mental chains that tell you success is not for you. The greatest prison is the one built inside your mind. And today you have the key, so make the choice. Let go of the belief that you are not enough. Let go of the belief that you are not capable. Let go of the belief that success is for other people, but not for you. Because the truth is, the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the belief that you can't have it. And the second you let go of that lie, you will discover something incredible. You are always powerful enough to break free. There comes a moment in life when everything seems to stand still. You've prayed, you've hoped, you've waited, and yet nothing seems to change. The doors remain closed, the opportunities seem distant, and you find yourself wondering, God, when will my breakthrough come? But what if the answer has been in front of you all along? What if the key to unlocking everything you've been waiting for is obedience? Obedience is not a passive act. It is not about simply hearing a command and acknowledging it. It is about action. It is about movement. It is about surrendering your will, your fears, and your doubts and stepping into what God has already instructed you to do. Yet so many people stand on the edge of their breakthrough, unwilling to take that final step because obedience often requires trust. And trust requires letting go of control. Think about a child learning to swim. The parent stands in the water, arms open, saying, "Jump, I've got you." But the child hesitates. The water looks deep. The mind fills with doubt. What if they don't catch me? What if I sink? And so, instead of jumping, they stand on the edge, paralyzed by fear. The problem is they don't realize that the parent's arms are strong enough, that the water will hold them, and that the only thing stopping them from experiencing the joy of swimming is their refusal to take the leap. This is how so many people live their lives. God has called them into something greater. He has whispered instructions, opened doors, given signs. But instead of stepping forward in obedience, they hesitate. What if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if I lose everything? And so they stay stuck, not because the opportunity isn't there, but because they refuse to obey the call. Look at the people in Scripture who walked into their destiny. Every single one of them had to obey before they saw their breakthrough. Noah had to build the ark before he saw the rain. Abraham had to leave his homeland before he saw the promise. Peter had to step out of the boat before he walked on water. Obedience always comes before the miracle. Yet, so many people wait for the miracle first. They want confirmation guarantees, a safety net. They say, "God, if you bless me first, then I will obey." But that's not how faith works. Faith is moving when you don't see the full picture. Faith is saying yes, even when it doesn't make sense. Faith is trusting that when God calls you to something, He has already prepared the way. But let's be honest, obedience is not always easy. Sometimes it requires walking away from what is comfortable. Sometimes it means leaving behind relationships, jobs, or habits that no longer serve your purpose. Sometimes it means doing something that seems completely illogical to everyone around you. There was once a man who felt a deep calling to start a business that would impact lives. He had a stable job, a steady paycheck, and a comfortable life. But something inside him kept pushing him toward this dream. For years, he hesitated. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? One day, after years of struggling with indecision, he finally took the leap. He obeyed. It wasn't easy. There were challenges, moments of doubt, and days when he wanted to quit. But because he followed what he knew God had placed in his heart, doors began to open. And looking back, he realized that his breakthrough had been waiting all along. He just had to obey. How many people miss their destiny because they refuse to take that first step? How many spend their lives waiting for a sign when the real sign is the instruction they already received? Obedience is not about understanding every detail. It is about trust. It is about surrender. And when you finally decide to move in obedience, things start to shift. Doors open. Opportunities arise. Miracles happen. Not because you forced them, but because obedience positions you for the breakthrough that was already prepared for you. So ask yourself, what has God been telling you to do? What have you been delaying, ignoring, or running from? The very thing you hesitate to do might be the key to unlocking everything you've been praying for. It's time to stop standing on the edge. It's time to take the leap. Because on the other side of obedience is the breakthrough you've been waiting for. There is a silent thief that robs people of their dreams, their joy, and their potential. It doesn't come in the form of a sudden disaster or a major failure. No, this thief is far more subtle, far more deceptive. It creeps in quietly, disguising itself as logic, caution, or even wisdom, and before you know it, it has stolen years of your life. This thief is called procrastination. Procrastination is not just about putting things off for a day or two. It is the art of delaying your destiny. It is the habit of always waiting for the perfect moment, the right circumstances, the ideal conditions that never actually come. It is convincing yourself that you'll start tomorrow, next week, or next year, while life keeps passing you by. There was once a man who dreamed of writing a book. Every day he told himself he would start tomorrow. But tomorrow became next week became next month, and before he knew it, years had passed. He watched others publish books, live their dreams, and step into success while he remained stuck in the same place, not because he wasn't capable, but because he kept waiting for the right time. And one day he realized the cruel truth. His dream didn't die because he wasn't talented. It died because he never took action. This is the tragedy of procrastination. It does not destroy dreams overnight. It kills them slowly, quietly, through hesitation and delay. It convinces you that you have time, but time is never guaranteed. Why do people procrastinate? Because fear whispers lies into their ears. What if you fail? What if you're not good enough? What if people judge you? And instead of facing that fear, they retreat into the illusion of later. Later feels safe. Later feels comfortable. But later is the graveyard where dreams go to die. People don't realize that procrastination is not just avoiding work. It's avoiding growth. It's avoiding the discomfort of stepping into the unknown. It's avoiding responsibility for your own success. And the longer you avoid, the harder it becomes to break free. A farmer doesn't wait for the perfect weather to plant seeds. He knows that if he delays too long, the season will pass and the opportunity will be lost. The same is true for life. There are seasons for action, and if you miss them, you may never get them back. Imagine if great leaders, inventors, or visionaries had waited. Imagine if they had said, "I'll start when I feel ready." The world would not have the innovations, the breakthroughs, the progress that we see today. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not talent. It is action. Success does not belong to the smartest, the luckiest, or the most talented. It belongs to those who are willing to take action despite their fears, despite their doubts, despite their imperfections. So what is it that you have been delaying? What is the dream, the goal, the assignment that you keep pushing aside, telling yourself you'll start when the time is right? The time is now, not tomorrow, not next year, now. Because every day you wait is a day lost. Every moment you delay is a moment wasted. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to start. Write the first page. Make the first call. Take the first step. Do something. Because the only way to break free from procrastination is through action. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for everything to feel right. Stop waiting for permission to chase what you know you were meant to do. Because the truth is, if you don't take control of your life, procrastination will. And one day, you will wake up and realize that the life you wanted, the dreams you had, the opportunities you hoped for have passed you by. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can change. You can take action today. You can break free from the cycle of delay and step into the life you were meant to live. So make the decision. Do it now. Because the only thing standing between you and the life you desire is the excuse you've been telling yourself. And the moment you stop making excuses is the moment everything begins to change. There comes a moment in every person's life when they stand at the edge of a decision. It is a moment of hesitation, a moment where everything in them wants to move forward, but something holds them back. Fear whispers, doubt creeps in, and uncertainty paralyzes them. And so they stay where they are safe, comfortable, unchanged. But nothing great has ever been accomplished without bold action. No dream has ever been realized, no breakthrough has ever been achieved, and no destiny has ever been fulfilled by someone who was too afraid to take a step. The world does not belong to those who wait, it belongs to those who dare. Think about a bird learning to fly. It stands at the edge of the nest, looking down at the open sky. Instinct tells it to jump, to spread its wings, to soar. But fear tells it to stay put. What if it falls? What if the wings don't work? What if it crashes? And yet, the only way for that bird to ever know what it is capable of is to leap. Because the truth is, the fall is temporary, but the ability to fly lasts forever. This is the reality of life. The moment you decide to take bold action, everything changes. But that moment will never come if you keep waiting for the perfect time. There is no perfect time. There is no ideal circumstance. There is only now. And now is all you need. Why do people hesitate? Because bold action requires risk. It requires stepping into the unknown. It requires believing in something that cannot yet be seen. And for many, that is terrifying. The comfort zone is familiar, predictable, and safe. But it is also a prison. It keeps people stuck in mediocrity, living far below their potential, watching opportunities pass them by. There was once a man who dreamed of starting his own business. He had the skills, the vision, and the passion. But every time he thought about taking the leap, fear gripped him. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if I'm not good enough? And so he stayed in a job he hated, doing work that drained him, living a life that did not fulfill him. One day he met an old friend who had taken a similar leap years earlier. That friend had faced challenges, obstacles, and failures, but he had also found success. When the man asked him how he did it, the friend said, "I stopped letting fear decide my future." That one sentence changed everything. Because that's what it comes down to. Every time you choose to stay where you are instead of moving toward what you truly want, you are allowing fear to decide your future. And fear is a liar. Fear will tell you that you are not ready. Fear will tell you that you are not capable. Fear will tell you that the risk is too great. But the truth is, the greatest risk is doing nothing at all. Every successful person you admire has one thing in common: they took bold action. They moved forward before they had all the answers. They stepped out when the path was uncertain. They faced their fears and pushed past them. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for validation. They decided that their dream was worth the risk, and they went after it with everything they had. And now, the question is, will you? Will you let another day go by living a life that is smaller than what you were created for? Will you keep waiting for a sign, a guarantee, a perfect moment that may never come? Or will you take bold action and step into the life you were meant to live? It doesn't have to be a giant leap. Sometimes bold action starts with a single step, making that call, writing that proposal, saying yes to an opportunity that scares you. Whatever it is, do it now, not later, not tomorrow. Now, Because the only way to change your life is to move. Imagine yourself 1 year from today. Will you look back with pride, knowing you had the courage to go after what you wanted? Or will you look back with regret, wishing you had been bold enough to take action? The choice is yours. And in this moment, right now, you have everything you need to take the first step. So do it. Take bold action. The life you want is waiting for you, but it will not wait forever. There is a battle happening right now, and it is not being fought in the open. It is happening in the minds of millions of people every single day. It is the battle between possibility and limitation, between action and hesitation, between stepping into greatness and settling for mediocrity. And at the heart of this battle is a single dangerous belief, the idea that you are not enough. This belief is a silent killer. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells you that you're not smart enough, talented enough, strong enough, or worthy enough to achieve your dreams. It convinces you that success is for other people, those who are luckier, more connected, more deserving. And so you shrink, you hold back. You settle for less than what you were meant for, because somewhere along the way you accepted a lie as truth. But what if that belief is the only thing standing between you and the life you were born to live? What if everything you've ever wanted has been waiting for you to wake up and realize that you are more than enough? Think of a baby learning to walk. They don't question whether they are capable. They don't sit down after falling and decide they were never meant to walk. No, they get up again and again. They stumble, they wobble, they fall 100 times, but they don't stop trying. And why? Because deep inside, they know they were made for this. They don't need proof. They don't need permission. They just keep going. Somewhere along the way, people lose that relentless belief in themselves. They allow fear, failure, and rejection to convince them that they are incapable. They stop trying, not because they aren't able, but because they've been conditioned to doubt their own power. A young woman once dreamed of starting a business. She had the vision, the passion, the ideas. But every time she thought about taking action, doubt paralyzed her. What if I fail? What if no one believes in me? What if I'm just not good enough? And so she waited. Months turned into years, and the dream remained just that, a dream. One day, she saw someone else launch a similar business, and it was wildly successful. She realized in that moment that it was never about talent or luck or opportunity. It was about belief. The person who succeeded wasn't more capable. They just refused to let doubt win. This is what so many people fail to see. The only thing separating those who achieve their dreams from those who don't is the decision to believe in themselves, even when no one else does, even when the odds are against them, even when fear tells them to quit. Doubt will always be there. Fear will always whisper reasons to stop. But you are the one who decides whether those voices control you. You are the one who determines whether you move forward or stay stuck. The most successful people in history were not the smartest, the wealthiest, or the most gifted. They were the ones who refused to let self-doubt dictate their future. They were the ones who kept pushing, kept learning, kept showing up, even when everything inside them screamed that they weren't enough. You will never feel completely ready. You will never have all the answers. But you don't need to. You just need to start. You just need to take the first step and then another and another until the momentum carries you forward. Imagine looking back on your life years from now. Will you be proud of the risks you took, the dreams you chased, the courage you showed? Or will you be filled with regret, wishing you had believed in yourself when it mattered most? You have everything you need inside of you. Not tomorrow, not someday. Right now, the only thing left to do is act, because the truth is you were never lacking. You were never too small, too weak, or too unworthy. You have always been enough. And the moment you start believing that is the moment everything changes.